Welcome back. Alright, so in this module, we're going to learn all about the fifth and final step of 5S, which commonly goes by the name of sustain or self-discipline. Specifically, by the end of this module, you'll know exactly what sustain is, why it's important, and some techniques you can use to maintain the excellent gains you'll no doubt make through the first 4 steps of 5S. Okay, well, let's offer up a definition of what sustain means. Formally defined, in the context of 5S, sustain means to have the commitment and self-discipline to maintain the previous 4 steps. Now, in the 5S overview module, we introduced the concept of a rope to describe sustain, since when you tug on a rope with no slack in it, you get an immediate response. But let me explain this a little bit more. It's sort of like this. If a company is serious about the sustain step, there would be no way an employee of the company could ever walk by a piece of trash on the floor without picking it up, since, staying with the analogy, the sustain rope has been pulled tight and any abnormality, like some trash on the ground, is immediately noticed. However, when the rope isn't tight, meaning the last step of sustain is more of a fad than a way of life, that piece of trash may lay on the floor all day before someone even notices it. Now, as I mentioned in the last module, there are some who feel this last step of 5S is somewhat redundant, since if you're completely focused on the sort, straighten, and sweep steps, the standardize and sustain steps aren't really needed at all. With this said, for organizations just starting out on their lean journey, this final step may, in fact, be the most important step of all. So, let's spend a few minutes discussing why this is. The first reason the sustain step is so important is it drives accountability throughout the organization. You see, most people are far more likely to follow through with a promise when they know someone else is watching and participating in the same initiative. Now, if you've ever had a workout partner, you know exactly what I'm talking about, since even though after a long day, the last thing you want to do is head to the gym, you know your workout partner's depending on you, so you go. What you didn't know is many times the only reason your workout partner showed up was because he or she knew you were going to be there. And that, my friends, is accountability at its best. Next, in addition to accountability, a little friendly competition can result from the sustain step. Now, later in the module, we'll explain some techniques many companies use to keep everyone focused on not only maintaining, but also improving 5S levels. Of course, this competition must be kept in check and not taken too far, since, in the end, the success of the company is more important than the success of a particular work area. Finally, perhaps the most important aspect of the sustain step is the fact that the entire organization continuously learns and improves. In fact, if we look at the PDCA wheel, which, as an aside, will be covered in much more detail in a future course, we see parallels to 5S. The first 3 steps of sort, straighten, and sweep are covered in plan and do, while the last 2 steps of standardize and sustain are covered in the check and act portions of PDCA. So those are just a few reasons why we should focus on sustaining. Now, let's learn some specific techniques any of us can employ. The first technique is to make clear links between 5S and SQDC metrics, which stand for safety, quality, delivery, and costs. Now, this is an example of a regression plot showing how 5S scores and on-time delivery are correlated. And as you can see, when 5S scores were less than 2, on-time delivery averaged around 65%. But once 5S scores approached 5, on-time performance increased dramatically. Of course, results will vary, and using regression, which we will cover in our Six Sigma school if you're interested, is not the only way to go about this. But the point I'd like to stress is that 5S should be monitored like any other key performance indicator your company tracks today. Now, the second technique to sustain is for supervision and management to practice Genchi Genbutsu, which means to go and see for yourself. In fact, for 5S to sustain, management must make it a point to walk the floor at least once a day to find out what problems exist and how they can support their employees. Additionally, audits of standardized checklists should be done from time to time, especially when a company is first starting out. And when the manager or supervisor finds a discrepancy, and eventually they will, they should use that opportunity to teach and educate the employee rather than chastise and punish. Of course, if an employee is continuously insubordinate, more serious action may be required. Another powerful technique is to implement what some call a 5-minute clean program, where each and every employee cleans and tidies up for a designated period of time. Some find 5 minutes each day to be enough, while some may need more and some may need less. Now, the exact period of time is not as important as making sure cleaning and workplace organization becomes ingrained in the daily work of all associates, and not just something that happens during the annual spring cleaning blitz. Next, having employees audit one another's work area at least once a month is another excellent technique used by many companies. Of course, clear guidelines and specifications as to how to score must be made clear to avoid potential conflict. Another benefit of this technique is that employees learn from each other and are able to share best practices while offering advice to one another. And as a reminder, sample audit sheets for both factory and office areas are available for download in the resources section. Now, many companies also find that a friendly 5S competition between work areas, including front office areas, can be a great way to generate excitement around the 5S program. Now, one company that I actually visited used the ugliest trophy you've ever seen as the prize for the area with the best 5S monthly audit score. But while hideous looking, it was perhaps the most sought after trophy that I've ever seen. In fact, and this is a true story, the day I was visiting was actually the day the monthly 5S winner was announced. And as I was walking through the office area, I heard this loud scream, then several screams coming from the back corner of the office. I stopped and asked what was going on. Then I saw the manager of the area come running down the aisle while grasping this hideous trophy as if she and her team had won the World Cup. Well, suffice it to say, this company took 5S and their 5S competition very seriously. Now, this company also did something else. Since the entire facility was audited by the official 5S committee, each work area was assigned a score. And as it turned out, the work area with the lowest score actually earned the privilege of attending a brown bag lunch with the general manager. And during this good-natured meeting, the team presented their plans for how they intended to improve this situation. And they were also given the opportunity to ask the GM for any help and resources needed to succeed. Finally, the last technique that I'd like to propose is to aim for your entire facility to be tour ready with no notice. In other words, if the CEO of your company called and said he or she would be in the plant in 5 minutes, would you be ready? Another more practical way of ensuring you're tour ready is to invite others, including key customers, to tour your plant or office. Now, you can also schedule family tours from time to time, as these events force us to constantly stay on top of sorting, straightening, and sweeping. And yes, that's me touring a plant in Japan, and I still can't believe I've allowed this picture to be seen. And that's the sustain step. Of course, there are many more techniques that can be used to sustain the gains we'll no doubt make, and it's our hope that we'll be able to learn from each other as we share our experiences in the forums. Now then, let's have one last discussion about our favorite bookshelf. Now, if you can remember, things were a bit shaky in the beginning, but we slowly chipped away at it and made steady improvements by following the 5 steps outlined in this course. Now, the last thing that I've done in an attempt to really tighten the sustain rope is to create a log sheet that I'll use any time I remove a book or loan it out, since this is something that I've personally struggled with in the past. Of course, we can always do better, so if you have ideas for how to improve the bookshelf, please leave a comment in the forum. You never know. Your idea may be the topic of our next module. Okay, well, this wraps up this particular portion of the course. But since all Gemba Academy courses are dynamic, there will be more modules added over the coming months. So, if there's a particular aspect of 5S that you'd like to explore, please don't hesitate to contact us via email or the forums. My name is Ron Pereira, and on behalf of all of us at Gemba Academy, I'd like to thank you and wish you all the best as you progress on this never-ending journey of continuous improvement.